Captain Croesus Argentus of the 91st Company, 16th Legion, walked onto the bridge of his ship, the Lupercal's Remembrance, in a foul mood. When the Thousand Sun sorcerer Alephile had translated the ship into this system, it was unauthorized by Croesus, and he was furious when the Thousand Sun had insisted that he had good reason for the translation back to real space. Leaving behind his command squad, Croesus headed to the bridge to confront Alephile alone. Upon his entry, Alephile turned slightly at Croesus' approach and bowed at the captain's appearance. Croesus ignored the Tizkin's supplications and began speaking. "This better be good, Tizkin. We did not escape the Emperor's golden lapdogs for you to maroon us here." "Calm, Captain. There is a reason I translated us into this system." "Which is?" "I have received a vision of this sector as we passed by it. There is a battle raging here that I felt you would wish to partake in." "Why would we throw ourselves into battle when we only just avoided a massacre only weeks ago?" "Well, cousin," Alephile gestured, and a mortal bridge officer clicked up a hololith. The hololith displayed a small green world designated as Koala Free, an agri-world of little consequence. But what was interesting to Croesus was the two fleets dueling above it. Abaddon's dogs and Fulgrim's whelps. Well, that is interesting. I thought, given your history, Captain, you would be interested in delivering punishment to them both. Croesus smiled inside his helm. It seems you know me far better than I thought, Tizkin. What is the enemy's strength and disposition? The Emperor's children have one heavy cruiser and one escort, while Abaddon's dogs have one strike cruiser and two escorts. Very well, Tizkin. We shall wait for the escorts to be dealt with and then pay our respects to both parties. Alephile smiled. Very well, Captain. What are your orders for this engagement? Croesus thought a moment before answering. Gut the Emperor's children's ship and cripple Abaddon's dogs. We shall take down the Black Legion from within. Very good, Captain. Croesus began to turn away as the chains hanging from his Mark V battle plate rattled as he looked back over his shoulder at Alephile. Tizkin, while I do appreciate this gift you have delivered to us, I do not like being overruled in my decisions. Do not do this again. Yes, Captain. Croesus marched from the bridge as he began to issue company muster orders across the ship's Vox. It took 2 hours for the engagement to reach its pinnacle, the final escort of the Black Legion fleet being destroyed by a coordinated lance strike. It was just the heavy cruiser dueling the strike cruiser, and the projected estimates gave the strike cruiser only 28 minutes before its destruction at the hands of the Emperor's children. Meanwhile, the 91st Company of the Sons of Horus mustered for war. Armour donned, weapons grabbed, oaths of moment taken. All over the Lupercal's remembrance, the Sons of Horus mustered for battle once more. Croesus, now garbed in his Terminator plate, stood alongside his command squad of Harakon, Tarkus, Duran, Arakyle, and Surain. All stood together on the bridge as Alephile and his Rubric Marines took up defensive positions around the ship's bridge. Harakon spoke over the ship's Vox as the bridge bustled with activity. Captain, is this the wisest use of our resources? Tarkus laughed. You fret too much, brother. Don't you see the bounty offered to us? Oh, it will be good to kill some of Fulgrim's whelps again. I do not doubt the foes to slay, but we could wait for one side to destroy the other in full before we attack, rather than fighting against both when they could rally together against us. Croesus turned to Harakon. Symbols have meaning, brother. I want them both to see us coming, and to know the Sons of Horus have come for them. That sounds like 8th Legion thinking, brother. They might be weakling cowards, but not everything they preach was as rotten as their souls. Croesus blink-clicked his Vox over to the company Vox channel. Brothers, this is the day we shall bathe in the blood of cowards and traitors, the weaklings who abandoned us, and the fools who betray Legion and honour. Fight with fury, fight with steel, my brothers. Let our foes fear the 16th Legion as they once did, and be reminded of the legacy of the true War Master. Kill for the living, kill for the dead, for the War Master, brothers. Harricon spoke over the private vox as the cheering of the rest of the company dimmed the general channel. Fine words, brother. For a moment you sounded like your old self. Croesus ignored the implications of those words and answered the unasked question. It is finally time for us to fight for what we believe in, brother, not just for survival. Harricon sighed. What we believed in died with him, brother. Croesus did not continue the discussion any further and opened his speakers to address Eliphael, who was discussing tactics with his younger blood brother, Beliphael, nearby on the bridge. Eliphael, it is time. Eliphael stepped away from his brother and walked back up the gangplank to address Croesus. Yes, Captain. Good. Now show us why you were given command of a 15th Legion vessel before you made Sergeant, cousin. Eliphael smiled and turned to address the bridge crew. Helm Officer raise voids. All power to weapons and engines. Engage overdrive on the plasma reactor. The Lupercal's remembrance erupted from the gas cloud where it had been hiding in and burned at full power towards the Emperor's Children cruiser. The two enemy vessels barely had time to react before the Lupercal's remembrance was upon them. The battle barge unleashed a full barrage of lance fire from its turrets. At the same time it erupted a full volley of torpedoes from the front. As soon as the last torpedo left its tube, the Lupercal's remembrance engaged overdrive and dived, burning with its thrusters. As it did, the lances ruptured the Emperor's Children's void shields, and the torpedoes exploded all across the cruiser's hull, ripping apart the outer decks of the vessel. Before the explosions had even settled, Eliphael burned the ship's retros and released a full volley of macro cannon and lance fire into the stricken ship, rupturing through the existing torpedo wounds, gutting the vessel as a second volley of fire broke through the pre-damaged sections, destroying what was left of the 3rd Legion cruiser. Void kill, spoke Eliphael through the ship's vox. Croesus vox back. Good kill, Tizkin. Now for Abaddon's whelps. Destroy their engines and landing bays. I wish there to be someone left alive to kill in person. The Lupercal's remembrance burned its thrusters, opening up with full power to its modified reactor. As it burned away from the drifting 3rd Legion hulk, Eliphael clutched his head in distress before turning to address Croesus. Captain, it seems we have intruders. A warp rift in the landing bay. It seems we have 3rd Legion visitors. Croesus grumbled and spoke. It would be right that some of them survived. Vermin like them usually do. Croesus blink-clicked the ship-wide vox and called out, Attention all hands, prepare to repel boarders. He then turned to Eliphael. Seal down the landing bay. Mobilize the militia and send 3 squads of legionaries to the landing bay. Oh, and tell the Iron Sisters in the Enginarium that we have uninvited guests. Croesus turned to leave the bridge. We shall deal with them in person, brothers. Make sure the Black Legion ship is disabled by the time we get back, Eliphael. Yes, Captain. Croesus and his command squad marched down the spinal way of the Lupercal's remembrance towards the main transit shaft. While his squad laughed amongst themselves, Croesus kept listening to the vox and keeping an eye on the wider tactical situation. It seemed like the 3rd Legion had less than 2 squads in the hangar and was struggling to break the cordon around the hangar bay, while Eliphael was toying with the Black Legion strike cruiser, using the enhanced speed and the maneuverability of his former 5th Legion vessel to avoid the flailing fire of the Black Legion strike cruiser, as Eliphael picked apart the enemy vessel with pinpointed lance fire. As they descended down the main transit shaft, Tarkus addressed the squad over the squad box. Shall we take a bet to see how many 3rd Legion skulls we can collect, brothers? I'm betting at least a dozen adorning my armour within 5 minutes, said Harricon. Duran revved his chain fist blade and spoke. I wouldn't honour a 3rd Legion skull as a chamber pot for our slaves, let alone decorate my armour. We are not here for skulls, brothers. We are here for victory, explained Surain. He speaks at last. How long has it been? A year or more since you last spoke, brother? Surain kept his silence as the rest of the squad laughed. Croesus smiled inside his helm. It had been a while since he had this level of energy within his company. They exited the transit shaft to the sounds of distant gunfire, as Croesus and his command squad began rounding the corridor corner. When they did, they saw Brother Lucia and Squad Flaren engaged in a bolter duel as the 3rd Legion attempted to break their cordon around the hangar bay. Lucia saluted with a fist to his chest. "Captain, you honour us with your presence." Croesus smiled. Lucia was the last Marine inducted into the 91st Company before the outbreak of the heresy, and a true believer in Horus and the Legion. Everyone knew that Lucia had Croesus' favour, and that he was first in line to command his own squad when the time came. Before Croesus could speak any further, Sergeant Flaren appeared, his Mark IV armour adorned with runes of Slanesh, and he stank of blood, bile and perfume, as Croesus sealed his helm vents against the impenetrable stink. He spoke with a soft, melodious voice that grated against Croesus' mind. "Captain, while I enjoy the company of the 3rd Legion, I would request getting to dance with our guests in person." Croesus grumbled before speaking back. "You shall have it soon, brother, as soon as our blood-hungry brother joins us from the lower decks." Flaren sneered, and Croesus was reminded why he hated this particular brother. He was as arrogant as any member of the 3rd Legion, and as sadistic and dishonourable as any member of the 8th. But he was still of the 16th Legion, so Croesus ignored him and blink-clicked the security feeds throughout the ship. 100 mortal gangers were being harried and pressed to the left access bulkhead on the landing bay, while Ishrak and his Cornate killers were waiting at the right-hand side, while the Raptor squad was waiting above for the order to attack. Croesus paused for a few moments before switching to the company vox and shouting, "Charge!" as all squads breached into the hangar bay at once. Croesus and his squad barged into the incoming fire of the 3rd Legion boarders, Harakal and Tarkus leading the way as they charged into the incoming barrage of fire. Croesus' squad stormed their way into the opening of the hangar bay. As they did, 2 warriors in pink died in a hail of bolts as the remaining Emperor's children fell back from the Terminators and took up positions behind cover. Undaunted, Croesus and his Terminators stormed ahead and began to attack individual 3rd Legion warriors. 2 warriors in pink charged out from behind a crate towards Croesus. The first ran headlong towards him, Thunderhammer raised overhead. Croesus shot him down with a hail of bolts, dropping the warrior to the ground. The second warrior in pink slashed with a power sword, gouging a rent in the outer plate of his Terminator armour. Before Croesus could react any further, the warrior kept attacking, his barbed power sword gouging at his Terminator's warsuit. Croesus cursed his foe's enhanced speed, as Croesus did his best to block the attack with his power sword, matching the Emperor's Children warrior blow for blow. Croesus gauged that while his foe was faster, he was too focused on speed and drawing out the battle over swift victory. Croesus reached out and grabbed his opponent's blade as it swung an overhead strike. The pain burned as the sword bit into his hand. The pain was intense, but it gave him the opening he needed. Croesus rammed his sword into his opponent's chest up to the hilt, before releasing his foe's blade, and with his wounded hand lashing out a punch into the foe's helmet. A second slash from his power sword finished off the Emperor's Children warrior for good. Croesus checked his helm feed and saw that most of the boarders were dead, or close to it, as they were being finished off by the Sons of Horus. All of the cultists sent by the Sons of Horus were dead, but they were acceptable losses. Guttural laughing broke Croesus' thoughts, and he turned to see the final Emperor's Children warrior standing before him. This foe was obviously the enemy's leader, and they were a bloated, monstrous creature, half-fused form of bubbling flesh mounted with inside a suit of Mark IV plate. And yet, his foe's face was perfect in every way. An exact copy of Fulgrim's face before that Primarch's fall, Croesus realized. And yet, while the face was perfect, the rest of his foe's body was vile and mutated. with his foe's right arm being an enormous mass of flesh and muscle. The warrior's voice was rough and gritty, far in contrast with the beautiful serenity of his face. "Well, well, well. How delightful. When I saw your ship's name, I thought you were part of Abaddon's brood here to reinforce them, but no, you are something far more. A warrior lost amongst time, I would say." "I had thought you were all finally dead, but oh, even after all these millennia, I can still be surprised. The beautiful irony of your existence is positively delightful. Now then," half mocking in a low bow, "now then, lost son of Cophonia, shall we dance?" Croesus had had enough of his prattling and opened box to his company. "Kill him." A hail of bolts, plasma, lass, and solid shot ripped apart the warrior, turning him into nothing but a red stain upon the now melted and dented landing bay floor. Croesus turned to his command squad as the rest of his warriors began looting the dead and aiding the wounded. Croesus voxed up to the bridge. "Tiskin, status of the Black Legion vessel?" A chime in his ear heralded the Thousand Sons' response. "Their engines are destroyed and their weapon batteries disabled. I can destroy them any time." "Good work, Tiskin. Keep them pinned in place and warm up the teleport chamber." The Thousand Son laughed into the box. "A classic Chthonian spear tip, cousin? Sometimes you must go with the classics. Cut off the head and the body dies." "Very good, Captain." It took a further 20 minutes before the company was assembled and prepared for further operations. Damage in the port landing bay had rendered it inoperable without repair, so the company assembled on the starboard embarkation deck, and Thunderhawks and Stormbirds awaiting the order to depart. Meanwhile, Croesus and his squad waited on the teleport pad in the upper decks of the vessel. The Lupercal's Remembrance glided up to the stricken Black Legion vessel on minimal power. What weapons the Black Legion vessel had barely scratched the battle barge's void shields. Only when both vessels were perfectly parallel with each other did Croesus vox his orders. "Strike!" With that, the gunships deployed from the landing bay, and a few seconds later, Croesus and his command squad teleported onto the bridge of the Black Legion vessel. At their arrival on the bridge, Croesus and his squad opened fire, slaughtering all within their gun barrels, mortal or Astartes. After a volley of fire, the room became still, as Croesus raised his arm to silence the squad from further violence. A black-armoured warrior with a plumed helmet raised up from behind the console, and two other warriors in black followed shortly after nearby. The warrior with the plumed helmet spoke. "How dare you! The War Master will kill you for this!" Croesus remained silent and ignored the urge to blow the warrior's head off. "Do you recognize me? Do you recognize the heraldry of the true War Master?" The warrior with the helmet laughed. "True War Master? Do not make me laugh." A warrior in the black garb of a tech marine rose up and spoke from nearby. "The Sons of Horus are dead, brother. We fell on Terra. You should have joined the New Order when you had a chance." Croesus turned and addressed the tech marine. "So, you are a brother. You recognize me, I assume, but I do not recognize you. I was Argan, tech marine of the 51st Company, 16th Legion, but now I am of the Black Legion, Captain Argentus." "Traitor, you betrayed him and betrayed his legacy to side with Abaddon." "There was nothing left to betray, brother. We lost all on Terra. All that is left now is our vengeance against those who destroyed him. You did not need to betray his memory to do that." The black-armoured warrior of the plumed helm spoke again. "As fascinating as this is, you all need to die." Croesus raised his twin bolter and fired, 2 shots bursting out the warrior's skull. Croesus frowned and addressed the tech marine once again. "Who was this brother who does not know his history?" The tech marine addressed Croesus and started speaking again. A thin-blooded whelp, a second spawn of the 13th Legion. Figures. You know they will come after you for this. You know he will hunt you for this. I am counting on it. Croesus raised his bolter, pointing it at the Tech Marine. Farewell, brother. It took a further 4 days before the 2 enemy vessels were stripped of everything useful and the Black Legion vessels scuttled. Croesus stood alone in his chambers, poring over a map of the Ultima Segmentum, when Harricon entered his chamber and approached. This was a successful raid, brother. We have enough supplies to last for months. I detect a but in your tone, brother. Some of our brothers are wondering if we should not attack the Imperials on the Agri-world as well. No. No? They are not our true foe, brother. I have no reason to fight them. No reason? They are Imperials. Aren't they our enemy? A bunch of farmers and ignorant mortals are not our enemy. Croesus turned to Harricon and sighed. Brother, I no longer care about fighting the Imperium. I wouldn't let anyone else outside this room hear that, brother. It is true. I have no wrath against him anymore, brother. May as well be wrathful against the universe. So what now? What is our purpose if not vengeance? Vengeance? This has always been about vengeance. Our purpose is that it has always been, brother. I am merely doing what we should have done thousands of years ago. Abaddon must die. Nothing else matters. And pray tell, brother, how are we going to achieve that? Croesus beckoned Harricon to a map on the table, and pointed out to a world he had circled with black ink. A forge world? Hunters need weapons, brother, and to hunt our quarry, we are going to need some powerful weapons. Harricon turned to his brother and